Welcome back to my channel, everyone. In today's video, I am testing out this new gadget and I have a fun little project planned, so let's get to it. So when resiners asked me if I'd like to try their Dual Head Mixer, I absolutely said yes, because here's a few reasons actually. I am extremely anemic, beyond level anemic at the moment, and in the past few months I have found that I don't have as much dexterity in my fingers and wrists. So every time I'm mixing a large amount of resin, or actually even a small amount of resin, I can really feel it. I can really feel it in my fingers and my wrists. So a resin mixer, because with the amount of resin I use and the crafting I do, was a no-brainer, and I absolutely said yes. And so this is a little quick unboxing before we move on to the project. And I gotta say, I am pleasantly surprised as to how compact this machine is, because my biggest worry is having anything too big on my work surface, because I have a very limited work surface and that just takes so much space, and eventually I don't end up using it and I put it away. So the fact that this is so compact, it can stay out on my table and I'll be able to use it. So that is a plus point for me. So I'm doing a quick little assembly here. It's not too bad at all. It's got clear instructions. So I'm just gonna put this together real quick and leave it on charge, and we're going to move on to our project and come back to this later. So a while ago, when I was looking and shopping for craft supplies that I don't need, as you do, I came across these wooden sort of discs, tree barks. I don't know what to call them, but basically these are these discs of wood, and I saw these at Hobbycraft and I had to get them. I wasn't sure at the time what I was going to do with them, but I'm using them in this project and I'm really excited. So the first thing I am doing is drilling out a hole into these so then I can go ahead and cut out an inner circle of these. And looking back at this video as I'm doing the voiceover, I'm just wondering, why am I using my jigsaw to cut out the inner circle? Because that was hard and I could have just done that on the bandsaw. So I do not know what I was thinking then, but anyhow, hindsight is a good thing. So I have cut out these inner circles like I wanted, and I am going to save these inner circles. Again, I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but it's a good piece of wood, so we're just going to save them and hopefully use them at some point. But I have my inner circles cut out, and in this project you will see me making 2 of the projects, but you will probably only see me finishing one, and I'll tell you more about that later in the video. Next, I am ready to start with some epoxy resin. So I am just using a sheet of sticky back plastic that I'm going to lay down so that I can stick my wooden bits onto it, just so I don't have to bother making a mold, etc. So it's a lot easier this way, and I quite like to use this way of doing things. But to be safe, because I would hate to have a massive leak on my table, we're going to be safe, and I am going to go around with some UV resin to line the inside of the circles, just so that when we pour our deep pour or when we pour any resin, we don't get any leaks and a huge mess, which would be a disaster. I'm being diligent for once.
She's all grown up.
And now that my UV resin is cured, I'm going to lay down a very tiny amount of resin. This is fast cure resin. I just want to have a little base before we move on to the next step.
Later.
Okay, so my resin is still tacky, but I want to move on and start laying down some flowers. So I've got a bunch of leaves and dry flowers in here, and I'm just going to randomly place these in the center so that, they can grab onto the resin that I have down there, so that when I pour a deep layer of resin, these don't float up to the top. And for me, this is an extremely satisfying process. I absolutely enjoy when I'm just mindlessly creating something, and in this case it's just putting down these flowers. There's not too much to think about. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just pleasing, it's just satisfying, and I love it. It's exactly what art should be. Also, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you go subscribe and click that notification bell so you get notified every time I post a new video. And also like and comment, guys, because it really helps my channel and I can then bring you more videos like this. Okay, so I'm happy with my flower situation. And we are ready for some decor resin that I'm going to be using by Jade Action Officials, and we're going to use this mixer because imagine me hand mixing all of that resin. So here goes. First of all, I really like that this is cordless, so you can just charge it, and the fact that you can place it anywhere. Like I said, you can just have it on your table and put your cup in and just get mixing. So it does have a dial, so you can control the speed of the mixing, which once again is handy. And there's a silicone mat at the bottom that will catch any drips or any mess or any resin leakage that you might have while you use this. So loving it so far. So I'm going to leave that to mix for a bit and come back to it when I think we are good to go and we don't have any streaks.
A few moments later.
Okay, so now I do want to tint the resin. So I have added a few drops of black colorant to this. It's a dye. And I do want it to be transparent. So yeah, this is going to do the job for me and mix it all up.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Okay, so that worked really well, and I could go and do other bits while this was mixing. And then I've just left a cup underneath the mix thingy for it to catch the resin drips in there. Now, I would recommend that once this has done its job, you use a stick and hand mix it just for a few minutes, just to make sure that there's no unmixed resin on the sides and the corners of your container. It's just something I would recommend, and it is something that I did because the last thing I wanted was to have any unmixed resin sticking to the sides. So while this has gone ahead and mixed all of it, just give it a nice scrape in the end and just combine it together just to be safe. Okay, so now I'm ready to pour all of this black goodness onto my flowers. So here goes. It's actually quite fulfilling. Though my hairline is thinning, I barely do anything else. I read several books, I do meditation, walks in the woods, a new destination. I sit with my feelings. Okay, so it looks like I had the perfect amount of resin mixed up, and I have let the resin sit for a bit, and then I have gone ahead and torched it to remove any bubbles. I mean, this is deep pour, so it doesn't really have any bubbles, but I did that anyway. And then now I'm just doing another final top coat with some clear resin. Now with deep pour resin, you do have to leave it for quite some time to cure. It cures slowly. So I have come back to this for the top coat after 3 days, I believe. And once again, I'm gonna give this a torch and we're gonna leave this to cure. Okay, so these have cured and now it's for the fun bit.
No, God, please, no, no,
Sanding.
no,
Yay!
no!
So luckily I do have a belt sander. This is my lumberjack belt sander. Once again, I'm going to leave you with all the discount codes for the mixer, for the sander, for the resin, all the discount codes in the description below, so you can find them there. But this does make sanding somewhat tolerable and a lot quicker. So yeah, I'm just gonna sand both sides of this, and after that we can move on to my next step, which is obviously gonna be top coating this.
One extremely annoying shift later.
Now, I have done something different in this video. I wanted to top coat both sides to bring back the shine and, you know, the gloss, but I did not want to cover the bark edges. And it was obviously quite difficult to tape them because the bark of a tree or a wood, as you could imagine, is quite uneven. So what I did is go around with an outline of UV resin on the edge of the side. And then that way, when I pour my top coat, it's going to be contained in the bit of the UV resin, because resin isn't going to go over my UV resin. It will be kind of like a container for the top coat, if that makes sense. Now, this did take a while to do, but I do feel it was worth it in the end because I had no drips on the sides, and that's what I wanted. So yeah. So now for the top coat, once again, I'm going to the mixer, and this time it's only a small amount of resin. So I have my little paper cup in there and it's doing the mixing. Now the cup is moving as it's mixing, but it's still pretty secure because the silicone mat underneath has grip. So I can just leave it. I can just leave it and go do things and come back to it when I think it's mixed. Once again, like I have this on a speed that I'm comfortable with, which again I like. And like I said, you could be mixing 2 cups of resin at the same time because this is dual head, you can. So yeah, I think I finally have a gadget that I'm actually going to be using. Once again, links are in the description below. Okay, so time to massage in that top coat. You know, I hate sanding, but the good thing about sanding is once you've sanded the surface down and then it looks all scruffy and not very nice, then you come back and when you do the top coat, it just comes back to life. And I find that so nice. Like I find that so satisfying. So this is me taking my time and revealing the awesomeness and just massaging in the resin. And like I said, I think it was a great idea about the UV resin on the sides because, you know, I could just leave this and not worry about the drips. So yeah, that was a good thing I did that, and I think I might do that in some other projects as well, especially when the edge is quite uneven and you can't tape stuff. I think that works really well. And so I hope you've learned something from this video. Maybe, you know, you've been inspired, educated, and that is really why I do these. I mean, I love creating, but it's also me sharing with you things that I do that go well and things that I do that don't go so well, so you don't make my mistakes. And also, you know, if something's gone well, then you can try it for yourself. And if it makes your life easier, then it's a win. Now, I did do the top coat on both sides, the bottom and the top, but I'm not going to bore you and show you all of that because it's literally the same. So I think I'm ready for some satisfying final piece footage. And here it is. I absolutely love how this turned out. I mean, I love that the flowers are kind of muted in there. I did not want them to be super bright. I did want it to be a grayish tone and the flowers inside. And I think that makes it look quite 3D. So yeah, and then you can see the bark is as is, which I love because I think it gives a nice bit of contrast. So yeah, this is how I would style this tray, platter, whatever you call it. Let me know how you would and leave me a comment, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.